Bosco wants to podcast today. It's the Bosco Show. Oh, hi, Bosco. You do not look happy. Do you want to go over on the... Okay, now that Bosco is settled down, hi, everybody. Now we're going to talk about knitting. Is that okay with you, Bosco? Um, I want to start by talking about work in progress. I would have never worked on this if it hadn't been Selfish Knitting Month, but this is the Motley Cowl by Madeline Tosh, and it's going very well. As you can see, I'm really into a rhythm with the knitting, and I have one. I'm on the last row of this XO uh, band, and then I do another one, and then we go ahead and knit 3 more of these arrows on the top. And I showed on Blue Sky that I ripped out the ribbing, and I did an inch of seed stitch, and I didn't like that. I didn't like anything that was going on the bottom of this cowl. So I just left the 3 rows of seed stitch and bound it off. And that's just enough with all of the color work that's going on. You can see there's a seam running through there. I had to sew this shut just to get it flat for viewing on the podcast, but that's what's going on there. It's going to need to have the bejesus blocked out of it. It's going to have to be wet blocked and stretched and really softened up. It's quite stiff. But the color work is great. I'm really enjoying knitting it, and it's going to be very pretty. And Madeline Tosh designed this to be used with a kit of mini fingering weights. I'm using leftovers from my stash, purples, blues, and greens, and a little beige variegated in there. But it's scraps, and I'm really enjoying using those up to lovely effect, I think. I might make another one of those at some point. It's enjoyable knitting for me, so that's fun. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to have some selfish knitting to do, something for me. I want to talk about a little organizational project that I did today. I knit a pair of socks a month at least, and I have done that for the past 2 years. This is my 3rd year. And I've been using since May of last year. I've been joining the knit along that the Grocery Girls have on their YouTube, but also on more specifically on their Ravelry group. And they call it Sock Bash. I've talked about it before. It is a monthly knit along with a theme for the kind of sock that you'll knit, and I'll go into those themes for 2025. And what I did today was go through my stash and my pattern collection and figure out pretty much what I'm going to knit for the rest of the year for socks. And it's a fun little exercise to sort of figure out, okay, this month is this theme, and this month is this theme, and what do I want to do for each one of those? So these I've shown before. These are the January socks. The theme for January was a little bit lacy, and so I did a easy lace sock with just cheap Croy yarn, wool, size 2 needles, and a little lace, and the project page is linked below. So those are January's, and I'm surprised that a college kid hasn't taken these. What do you do with all your socks? Someone asked me. They go in a basket in our living room, and the college kids come home and they say, I'll take these, and they do. And they go to roommates, and they go to themselves, and so forth. So that's what happens with the socks. February socks are in progress. I'm at the heel of the 2nd sock, and First sock is finished. Lovely soft. This is superwash. It is soft rose in the colorway First Frost. The theme for February is hearts and flowers. And so this is a yarn by the company Ruby and Roses. And the pattern is one of my favorite patterns. It is the recipe for a simple sock from the Yarn Harlot in her book Knitting Rules. And it's, cast on a certain number of stitches, knit, knit, knit. It's very simple. It's not a pattern that you follow if you've never knit a sock before. It's cast on this many stitches and make it. And my favorite leg to do is knit 3, purl 1. This is knit 1, purl 1 at the top, and knit 3, purl 1 throughout the leg and the top of the sock, and then the bottom is just stockinette. And I like top down socks. I don't do toe ups. So that's February. And then March. I mean, this is just an almanac, right, of what I plan to do. Did I bring those out? I don't know if I even brought them out. Oh, dang it. I'm doing Sporty Stripes, and I didn't bring the box out. Okay. Sporty Stripes is March, and I showed these on an earlier podcast, and I'm using the Earth URTH sock set in colorway Hanukkah, which is blue and white and gray. And blue and white was my high school colors and also my college colors. And there is a picture of those linked below. And those are going to be, I think those are going to just be tube socks because I really want to use up all that yarn. So you will see those in a future podcast. April. April is a new to me designer. And I'm embarrassed to say that I have never knit, I don't know if you can see that, the Simple Skype socks. They are a simple rib with a little yarn over and carry the yarn over the center stitch of the rib. It's very simple, but it's a little textured rib. And this is, there's like 2,000 people that have knit this sock. It's a free pattern, and it is very simple. I have knit Hermione's favorite socks, which is the other one that's sort of a cult favorite among sock knitters. What I am going to use, the yarn I'm going to use for that one is this. I really like these colors. This is an opal. It is Opal Regenwald Jubiläum, which is a celebration of 20 years of the rainforest. It's named after, this is a line of yarn that's named after different animals in the rainforest. And this one is Congo Sally, which is the name of this parrot, apparently. And the colorway matches the plumage of the parrot. And I'm going to use this yarn to make these simple Skype socks in April. All right. Then in May, the theme is April was new to me designer, and this is just a sock I've never knit before, so I'm gonna do that one. May is my favorite sock pattern, so I'll be back to using Yarn Harlot's recipe. And I'm going to use, I've been wanting to knit this for a long time. I bought this yarn in Peoria at the Fiber Universe. And it is called All the Colors. All the Colors. There we go. It is, let's see if I can find a good chunk of red in this, because there we go. It's called Frog in a Blender. And, ooh, yes. Ooh. But I'm excited. This color is really bright and really funny. And yeah, I'm looking forward to having bright, funny socks in my favorite sock pattern. So this will not be difficult. But I've had this yarn for over a year, and I've really wanted to make some socks out of it. So this frog in a blender socks will be, um, these will be the socks for May. All right, then we get to June. June is Pride Month, and we're doing rainbows. And so I showed this last week. This is the K&C yarn from Joann Fabrics Online. RIP all the Joann Fabric stores that are going out of business, but ours is not. Springfield is not on the list currently to be shut down. But this is a rainbow stripe. It's called Classic Rainbow Stripe. And it does knit up in bold stripes, so wide stripes. So excited about that. That's June Pride Month. Rainbows is the theme. July is short and sweet. So instead of knitting a 5-inch leg, which is required of the socks in order to participate for prizes in the sock bash, July you're given instructions to make them a shorty, anklet sock. So I'm going to knit the Lee socks, LEA, by Deb Buckingham. And I haven't found the yarn in my stash to do this. I know I've got some of that blue because I'm using it in my cowl. But I'll be finding some solid colors to put different colors in the heel and toe and cuff to make these short socks. And that really does look like a knit 3 purl 1 top anyway on that sock. So very similar to what I do anyway, but shorter. And I'm going to do that color blocking from, this is the Lee socks by Deb Buckingham, link below. All right, August. The theme is From the Garden, and I inherited some yarn from a member of my guild, Marianne, we call her, who passed away, and she has a massive stash that she left to the guild for the most part. This is discontinued yarn. It's knitted wit victory fingering. I did find a link to a picture of this colorway, which I do link below. This is called Monet's Garden. And she had it, Marianne had it packaged with a number of purples and pinks that coordinate with the Monet's Garden. And these are called gumballs, when you can see why they're called gumballs, because they're gumballs. These are also by Knitted Wit. These are their minis. And so this was a shawl kit along with the Monet's Garden Victory Fingering. These are also fingering weight gumballs. And I may wind up using those later for another sock. Or I may wind up putting the heel. It depends on how this knits up. If this is extraordinarily busy and I want a solid heel, then I'll use some gumball in there. Perfect. I mean, it's the same yarn, so it'll match up for gauge and all of that. But to start with, it'll be the colorway Monet's Garden, which is a discontinued colorway. All right, then we get into September. As September this year is cables. Make cables on your sock. And I'm going to go back to my old cable standby. This is Whidbey, which I knit last year twice for the cable month. It wasn't September, I don't think. I think it was October. But I really enjoyed knitting this. I didn't think I would. I wasn't much into cables. This is from Knitting on the Road by Nancy Bush. Has all her little sock patterns in here. And this one is just a really easy pattern to follow. So I haven't figured out the yarn yet because I haven't gone through my solid yarns to figure out. I want to have something fairly solid because you want to show off the cable. But I enjoyed knitting that so much that I cast it on again. I made 2 of those last year, and so I'm looking forward to doing that again in September. October's theme is I Love Fall, and I have a bag of scraps. This is a small skein. I don't think there's 400 yards in here. I think this might be a 50-gram ball, but this is hope you can see that. That is an orange gray fingering weight with a little bit of lurex in it. And I am going to mix that with some black and gray scraps that I have of fingering weight and make a kind of Halloween themed sock for October. The I Love Fall sock. It's going to be either color blocked or striped. I haven't figured that out yet, but I think I probably have 100 grams. I'll have to weigh this, but I think I have 100 grams here to make a pair. I only need really 75 for a 5-inch leg. So I'm pretty sure I have enough for that. But if not, I'll add something else. All right, that's October. November is It's a Gift. That's the theme. And last year, when I was actually traveling with the Grocery Girls, they did a tour thing, and we went to a yarn store, and I got this. This is Rowan sock, very nice high-end wool yarn in the color stone, and I'm going to knit a pair of socks for my husband, Driftglass, with these. They'll have to be quite long. He has 13, size 13. He's 6'8", so he's, big feet. So he will get some generously sized socks out of this. Again, this is Rowan sock, colorway stone, and this is I think it's 100% wool. Let's see, made with superwash, 100 grams. Yes, this is. Oh no! Excuse me. 75 wool, 25% polyamide. Okay. So yeah, so this is sock yarn with some nylon in it, some acrylic in it too, polyamide in it too, for strength. So those should be pretty sturdy. And then last but not least, December is super scrappy, and that is a theme that carries on through all of the years that I've done this. And I did look at past years, and scrappy is something that they do in December, and that makes sense to use up the scraps from the year. And whatever other scraps I have. I did find this pattern, which is called Color Palette Socks, which is a really nice way to stripe. This is what I was thinking of doing with those gumballs. And these are just, it's a cream color. It used a cream colored in this case, 1x1 rib. And then it looks like 3 rows of 1x1 rib between the colors. And so, yeah, I like that. You could use a mini set for that. And maybe I'll use the gumballs for those pink and purple gumballs for socks with that. We'll see how that goes. I certainly have enough leftovers, making that cowl. I have enough leftovers to do something fun. But that seemed interesting to me. This is Color Palette Socks by Laura Moonratz. Moonratz. Okay, Muratz. Laura Muratz. Okay, so that's the year in review. And like I said, some of them I don't quite have the yarn picked out yet, but most of the cases I do. And it's nice to have that all in one box ready to go and know that when the first of the month comes around, it's time to cast on another pair of socks. And I know for the next, 10 months what I'm going to do. And I wanted to remind everybody that February 21st, that's this Friday, is the start of another Knit a Second Sock Week knit along. And we're doing that on Blue Sky and also on the Ravelry page for 2025 Year of the UFO. And I have a link below to the group, the UFO group on Ravelry, or you can just use the hashtag Second Sock KAL on Blue Sky, and I will see it and celebrate you working on a second sock, because I'm always working on a second sock at the end of the month. That's for sure. I will always end with wanting to read something to you, and I found something I've been wanting to read to fellow knitters for a long time. This is a little excerpt, and maybe you've heard it from Alice in Wonderland, but it's something that is not in the movies. The movies focus on, eat me and she gets big, and drink me and she gets small, and meets the rabbit and so forth, and all of that is sort of in the script. But the book is longer, and there is some knitting in the book, and I'm going to share that with you. But first, she is dealing with one of the queens, and I think it's the White Queen. By this time, it was getting light. The crow must have flown away, I think, said Alice. I'm so glad it's gone. I thought it was night coming on. I wish I could manage to be glad, the Queen said, only I never can remember the rule. You must be very happy living in this wood, being glad whenever you like. Only it is so very lonely here, Alice said in a melancholy voice, and at the thought of her loneliness, 2 large tears came rolling down her cheeks. Oh, don't go on like that, cried the poor Queen, wringing her hands in despair. Consider what a great girl you are. Consider what a long way you've come today. Consider what o'clock it is. Consider anything, only don't cry. Alice could not help laughing at this, even in the midst of her tears. Can you keep from crying by considering things? She asked. That's the way it's done, the Queen said with great decision. Nobody can do 2 things at once, you know. Let's consider your age to begin with. How old are you? I'm 7½ exactly. You needn't say exactly, the Queen remarked. I can believe it without that. Now I'll give you something to believe. I'm just 101, 5 months, and 1 day. I can't believe that, said Alice. Can't you? The Queen said in a pitying tone. Try again. Draw a long breath and shut your eyes. Alice laughed. There's no use trying, she said. One can't believe impossible things. I dare say you haven't had much practice, said the Queen. When I was your age, I always did it for half an hour a day. Why, sometimes I've believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. There goes my shawl again. The brooch had come undone as she spoke, and a sudden gust of wind blew the Queen's shawl across a little brook. The Queen spread out her arms again and went flying after it, and this time she succeeded in catching it herself. I've got it, she cried in a triumphant tone. Now you shall see me pin it on again, all by myself. Then I hope your finger is better now, Alice said very politely, as she crossed the little brook after the Queen. Oh, much better, cried the Queen, her voice rising into a squeak as she went on. Much better, 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 better. The last word ended in a long bleat, so like a sheep that Alice quite started. She looked at the Queen, who seemed to have suddenly wrapped herself in wool. Alice rubbed her eyes and looked again. She couldn't make out what had happened at all. Was she in a shop? And was it really a sheep that was sitting on the other side of the counter? Rub as she would, she could make nothing more of it. She was in a dark little shop, leaning with her elbows on the counter, and opposite to her was an old sheep sitting in an armchair, knitting, and every now and then leaving off to look at her through a great pair of spectacles. "What is it you want to buy?" the sheep said at last, looking up for a moment from her knitting. "I don't quite know yet," said Alice very gently. "I should like to look all around me first, if I might." "You may look in front of you and on both sides if you like," said the sheep. "But you can't look all around you unless you've got eyes at the back of your head." But these, as it happened, Alice had not got, so she contented herself with turning around, looking at the shelves as she came to them. The shop seemed to be full of all manner of curious things, but the oddest part of it all was that, whenever she looked hard at any shelf to make out exactly what it had on it, that particular shelf was always quite empty, though the others round it were crowded as full as they could hold. "Things flow about so here," she said at last in a plaintive tone, after she had spent a minute or so in vainly pursuing a large bright thing that looked sometimes like a doll and sometimes like a workbox, and was always in the shelf next to the one above the one she was looking at. "And this one is the most provoking of all, but I'll tell you what," she added as a sudden thought struck her. "I'll follow it up to the very top shelf of all. I'll puzzle it to go through the ceiling, I expect." But even this plan failed. The thing went through the ceiling as quietly as possible, as if it were quite used to it. "Are you a child or a teetotum?" the sheep said. And she took up another pair of needles. "You'll make me giddy soon if you go on turning round like that." She was now working with 14 pairs at once, and Alice couldn't help looking at her in great astonishment. "How can she knit with so many?" the puzzled child thought to herself. "She gets more and more like a porcupine every minute." "Can you row?" the sheep asked, handing her a pair of knitting needles as she spoke. "Yes, a little, but not on land, and not with needles," Alice was beginning to say, when suddenly the needles turned into oars in her hands, and she found they were in a little boat, gliding along between banks. So there was nothing for it but to do her best. That's from Alice in Wonderland. And I just know that Lewis Carroll knew a knitter who knit with double-pointed needles. Because that sheep has a little porcupine in their hand of double-pointed needles. All right, that's it. There's your Knitter's Almanac for 2025 for all the socks. And I'll be working, like I said, until Ash Wednesday, which is March 5th, on finishing this up. And then it's on to blankets. And that's the other thing. I've got a plan. Where's my little notes here? I have a plan for the rest of the knitting for the year, sort of. Lent, which runs from March 5th to April 20th, is blankets, mostly charity blankets. And then in May, I'm going to be knitting a cotton sweater for middle child, who has requested. Middle child walked through my yarn room over the weekend. She was here and said, "Oh, look at this yarn. You could make me a top like the one you made me a couple of years ago that I wear all the time." So, that's her birthday's in July. That'll work out. And then I want to do, like, for June, July, and August, I want to do, like, knock out a sweater or finish a sweater in 2 months, get a sweater that is on the needles now and finish it. And I have a cardigan that's already on the needles. So I'd like to do bang out a sweater, that kind of thing. Let's actually all finish a sweater that's in a bag in our stash. Then in September, October, it's hats for charity. Also, my guild is doing hats, and so I'm gonna be churning out hats right around then. And then we'll see about November, December, and holiday stuff, and I don't know what's going to happen there. We'll figure it out. All right. Thank you for watching. I hope you got some inspiration out of that. Oh, one other thing. Forgot. Uh, also, I also participate in Sock Week, which is Nitty Natty's summer knit along where everyone knits one sock in a week. And she does a theme. Nitty Natty does a theme. Um, in past years, she has done Shark Sock Week, and I had set this yarn aside. This is hedgehog fibers, from that you can see the shiny label. This is a color called Merman, and I had set this aside to use during Shark Sock Week. But then this last year in 2024, she switched because she had traveled to a number of national parks. So she did the great outdoors. And so I switched gears and didn't use this. So depending on, I don't know what she's going to do this year. I have Merman if she decides to do Shark Week. And if she decides to do the great outdoors again, I have this Croy, which has a lot of green and blue and yellow in it. And it is called Sunburst Stripes. So it's got green for the ground and then sky and then yellow for the sun. So that would be a good one for if she does great outdoors. But maybe she's going to go a different route, and if she does, I'll tell you and let you know what I'm going to do. But I have plenty of sock yarn, so I'm sure I can come up with a yarn to go with whatever theme she comes up with. All right, I think that's it. Have a good rest of your week. Friday, now's the time to work on that sock and finish up a pair of socks by the end of February. I will be doing that and also working on my cowl. And I will see you next week. Bye-bye.